So those of you who have been on my channel before, you know I'm obsessed with gardening and especially with seeds. So I've been buying bulk packets of these just blank packets, and these are actually a little bit firmer and thicker than I usually get, which is kind of nice. So you can go either way. It takes a little bit extra glue, but they're kind of nice. They're kind of a little bit harder, like cardstock, and so I like to stamp them. So my frugal way of doing this, if I want to give them as gifts and like Mother's Day, you know, birthdays, things like that, it's a great idea. You can do a bouquet of seed packets and use like a shish kebab skewer and like tape it to the back of them, and you can have a whole vase or vase full of beautiful seed packets. One thing you can do is you can order seeds that you want for yourself. They usually end up coming with more than what you need, and so you could split it between yourself and a friend or loved one, and so you get half the seeds, they get half the seeds in their own little packet, and you can make it really cute for them. Or like I am doing a little bit of a side hustle, starting a seed company that is actually, I'm using a DBA, doing business as, but using Crybabies Homestead, doing business as Crybabies Homestead, and my LLC is Aubrey's Homestead. So I am going to be making seed packets. Now there's lots of different ways that you would incorporate depending on what you're using them for. But what I love about them is that you can freehand art on here, so you could sketch and draw your own art of the plants if you want to. You can just write the plant varieties on there directly. You can write down the dates that you harvested them, or the dates that you think that they would be best grown by, and all that kind of information you can hand write onto these. Alternatively, you can use plastic. Now these are a little bit bigger. These are for like large. I would use these for like large squash seeds or corn, where you're trying to get enough seeds to actually have a good harvest. So what I would use them for would be like mostly for like pumpkin or squash seeds, because you get so many seeds out of just one produce. Now kind of the rule of thumb is you want three different plants that you're including the seeds from at least. So I would take my 3 best squash, my 3 best corn, and I would let them dry naturally, like take them out, lay them on a paper towel or on a paper plate, and let them air dry. And when I'm sure that they're completely air dry, then I would put them into one of these. But I would have at least 3 specimen. So I would never just use one, because you want to have good genetics. And see here, these are, you get a lot of bags for $4.49. These, how many? 150. That's great, but they're plastic, so they're not going. The seeds aren't going to breathe very well. So I would use these for seeds that I was planning on using in a year or two. If I want my seeds to last longer, I'm going to be putting them into paper bags. Okay, you could also put them in paper bags and then have like a whole set. Like if I wanted to do 3 sisters, I could have, you know, a packet with corn, a packet with squash, and a packet with beans, all in the same container, with a cute little note that says 3 sisters, maybe like explaining how to plant them, and that would be a really nice gift. So I often will go to Hobby Lobby and buy the plastic bags. The one thing I don't like about them for personal use is that they slip inside around. So if you have a huge seed collection like I do, using plastic is not ideal. So I've been doing donations to the food bank, and I mix and match whatever I have available. If it's the paper ones or if it's the little small plastic ones, whatever I have available is what I use. And then sometimes if I mess up on a seed packet that doesn't look beautiful, and I might just donate that one to the food bank or to the library, because it's just the packaging, right? So that's how I'm kind of doing it. So again, if I didn't say this already, hi, I'm Aubrey. This is Crybabies and Homestead. I'm doing some filming today from my chair because I recently had surgery. Actually, the surgery was in April, but then after a month I went back to work, and my surgical incision ripped open. I'll spare you the gory details, but I ended up being hospitalized for almost a week. And so now I'm on a wound vac and all that kind of lovely stuff. And so I am not out in the garden, very sadly. And so I'm going to be showing you how I make my seed packets. And while I have been trapped, while while I've been trapped in a chair, I have been making up seed packets, some for my little shop, and some to give to the food bank, some to give to the library, and friends and family and all that good stuff. On these seed packets here, I looked at the pictures of what the blanket flower looked like. And so I was just freehand sketching. And you guys, I am not an artist, obviously. But if you are an artist, it's kind of fun to draw on the paper. They take really good to Sharpie markers. I tried other kinds of coloring materials. I would definitely go with permanent markers. It doesn't have to be the Sharpie brand. But I always want to have on my packaging the common name and the scientific name, if at all possible, because a lot of common names are used so like interchangeably with other plants. So what I call blanket flower, there might be another culture that uses the same common name, but Gaillardia aristata should be the scientific name just for this specific plant. So common name and scientific name should both be on the packet if possible. If there's a common name and there really isn't other plants that are called the same thing, then it's probably okay to use the common name, especially if it's for personal use. On the back of the package, I put down how long does it live. So this is a short-lived perennial, so it could live a couple years. I put down the count. The count matters if you are selling them. And if I haven't made a decision, I include more information than not, because if I haven't decided, then I want to make sure that I have the option. So if you're selling them, you have to have a lot number. So this lot number would be written on the package that you have your seeds in, and then you'd also have it on the individual packets. The reason being, if that particular lot you find out has a low germination rate, then you would know that all of the packets with that lot number are going to be the ones you have to pull. And if I have I go crazy on the cilantro and fenugreek, so I have several like 5-pound bags of both. And so if I had one bag that was bad and I had all my packets and I didn't say what lot it came from, I would be pulling all of that kind of seed, even if they had come from different sources. So you want to have the lot number on it if you are maybe selling your seeds. I have the germination rate. Purity is about how, like, if you have a handful of stuff and there's 100 little bits of things, what percentage of that stuff that's in there is a seed? So there's a little bit of chaff. And so this is 94% pure. It's about the actual material. BB is best by, and that's a recommendation. And so I put 427, which means that the test for this was done in April of 2026. And some states say 9 months, some states say 12. So I'm going with 12 months, usually because when you're planting it would be probably in the spring. So that makes the most sense. And then you're supposed to, if you're selling this in the United States, you're supposed to say where it's from. So this is from Aubrey's Homestead, which is in the United States. I should also have on there USA. Now, if you source your seeds from someplace, you're supposed to write down where those seeds came from. So if you have to look at the packaging, if you bought it from someplace else, where did they get them? Did they get them from Sri Lanka, from Mexico, from China? You have to have on the seed packet, if you're selling them, where they came from. Mine says Aubrey's Homestead LLC because my LLC is registered as United States, but I should actually add USA. So I've got that, and I've got some, blanket flower, some different ways I drew them. I do them all kind of differently. Now this one here is Henderson Bush Lima beans, and it says 15 to 20 seeds, and it's actually more than 20 seeds, but I don't want people to be disappointed, so I always say kind of less than what I put in there. And then I give them a little bit of a hint, like when to plant them, the lot number, the rate, the purity, where did it come from. These seeds I sourced from someplace. They're from Idaho, and they're best by the end of. BBEO for me is best by end of 2026. And there's more room on the back, so if I wanted to write more information, I could. One thing I like to do, though, and it's why I have all this stuff on my lap, is that I like to add stamps. And I actually bought these stamps from a secondhand store. I think it's called Secondhand Crafts. and I will put a link to them. I usually go there maybe twice a year, and I go through all of their stamp bins because, you know, stamping was really popular, oh gosh, like probably in the late 1990s. And so a lot of the elderly people, you know, they kind of donated the stuff. It kind of lost favor. It was back when scrapbooking was really huge. So like 2004 is when that stamp was made here, right? So most of these stamps are over 20 years old. And if you stamp them, sometimes they don't come out perfectly because they've been used a lot. I thought this one would be cute for using for thyme, like THYME. I thought that would be punny, very punny, to have thyme seeds in with one that has thyme. I also thought alternatively, I could put this on the back and I could put down the year on here. I could actually write down like for Best Buy and then, you know, the month and the year, or for and then 2026, 2027, so that it would be really clear what it's for. So I think I'll use it for that because then I'll get more use out of the stamp. But it's super cute. This one here, I thought it's kind of a blank slate. This would be really cute for using if I wanted to do like those chalk white pens. Like if I stamped it and then I did the white writing on top of that, that would be cute. I decided not to use this for the bulk stamping for the seed packets because that would be a lot of ink. So I'm going to put that one off to the side. But I do have a lot, and I figured you're required to write down, if you're selling seeds, where they came from. So instead of writing the word origin, I could write from Aubrey's homestead. And on YouTube, I go by Crybaby's Homestead. And that is a DBA, doing business as. So I do also have this thing here. This stamp here looks super cute. It's a farmhouse. That doesn't really give me a lot of room for putting down the plant material, the plant type, but I could definitely do that. So I could write down, like, if let's say these are for beans or something, I'd want to do something that's like more farmish, like corn or or maybe wheat. This would be really cute for my wheat seeds. So, and for the wheat, I don't have the illusion that I'm going to grow enough wheat to have a make bread from, but I figured it would look really beautiful in floral arrangements. So I've got the thyme. I thought this here would be cute for anything that you could use for birdseed. So I'm thinking millet. So I thought, you know, I do spend quite a bit of money on growing my own birdseed. Well, guess what you can do? You can literally take a handful of birdseed and plant it. And then the birds can forage the seed for themselves. It's actually really cool to do that. So if you just take one big pot and put a handful of birdseed into the pot, or put the pot underneath where your birds are eating, some of the seeds are going to fall down into that container and will grow for you. That's actually what happened to me. I had some sunflowers, black seed sunflowers, and some safflowers growing where I had some birdseed. And that's how I first got the idea of planting plants that are for the birds. Also, I had some weeds that one day, I think it was a wild lettuce, a flock of little birds, I don't know what they were, but they were in and out so fast. I had left a wild lettuce too long and it was full of seeds, and they came over and they sat on the plant and it fell to the ground and they all ate vigorously and then they flew away. They must have been migrating. But I thought that would be super cute. If you wanted to encourage people to plant birdseed, you could make up your own little packets and plant maybe specific native seeds that are for the native birds. But you could just use literally a handful of regular birdseed, put it in there, and write, plant these for the birds. Because whatever you planted will grow the seeds of the plants that they will now produce more seeds for the birds, and they can actually forage for themselves, which is, I think, healthier for their keeping their instincts of foraging. So I would do birdseed with this and just give it to like my nieces and nephews and stuff and have them plant their own pot of bird food for the birds, and that they would harvest those later. So that's my idea with that one. I figured this could be for rose seeds. Now I will give you the little caveat. It is kind of hard to grow roses from seed. But you can. It's not impossible. Roses do grow easier, I think, from cuttings. I've even taken a few long stem roses from a bouquet, and after the flower was kind of spent, I cut the flower off, and I recut the stem at an angle, and I put it into soil and just kept watering it and kept it into a humid environment, and I got a rose bush out of that. So you definitely can do that. You can save rose seeds from your rose hips, and this would be kind of fun for that. I think I used this stamp for my Orca beans. So I found a company from Washington that sells the black and white Orca beans, which I think are just absolutely beautiful. And so I think this looks really nice. It gives that yin yang kind of vibe. And the Orca beans are also called yin yang beans and Calypso bean. They're all three different names, the same plant. That's why I'm talking to you guys about using scientific names, because Calypso bean, Orca bean, Yin Yang bean are all the same plant. And I've been thinking, you know what? I love beans. I love to see them in glass jars. So I'm starting to upcycle and save my instant coffee jars with the idea that I'll rinse them out after I've used them, and I will fill them up with dry beans, especially the really pretty ones like the Yin Yang beans. I love Scarlet Red Runner beans. They're just absolutely beautiful. And I think they'll look really nice as like edible decoration, decor, country style. And then the Yin Yang beans, I think this looks really pretty for the stamp, for the packaging. And then of course you're going to have like, I have a ladybug somewhere. I misplaced it, but I've been using ladybugs on some of my packaging. I love those the best, I think, because after I stamp them, I go back over them after they dry with a little red marker really fast, and I think it looks really cute. Of course, the bees look adorable on anything that flowers, and you know, a lot of vegetables flower. You don't have to actually grow flowers for the flowers. You can grow squash, and they will have flowers. I really like this stamp because it actually does fit on the packet. It looks pretty big, but it actually does fit on the packet just perfectly. And I think it looks nice to write the word, like the plant name inside of it. So I found a few, I don't have all my stamps out right now, but I found a few that have like, you know, it's like a circle or it has a few lines on it. And then I use those as just like, you know, a template. So this one works really well as kind of like making a template on your packet. I'd say that this is one of my favorite stamps because I like to stamp the pot on it and then draw the flowers. And then I'll color this one orange because I bought a packet of markers from Hobby Lobby, and they're not the name brand. The ones I bought a lot of are this one right here, Master's Touch. They're working just as well as Sharpies for coloring, and they were a lot cheaper. Oh, okay, and by the way, so this right here, this little scoop, I don't remember what it was from, but a lot of things I have like, I'll have like the mushroom coffee or something. A lot of things they have like a supplement. It might have been for colostrum or something. So anyway, I'll save these little scoops because what you can do with a seed, with a type of seed, is that you can scoop it up, level it out, and then pour it into a plate and count the seeds. Then you know from that seed, from that scoop, every scoop of that type will have about roughly that number of seeds. And then what I would do is just put an extra pinch in to make sure that I never short anybody any seeds. So that's what I've been doing a lot of the time. Or if I do a pinch of seeds, I count, okay, well that pinch of seeds was 10 seeds or 12 seeds, and I'd say, oh, well, I'm gonna round down to 10. So I'll do a fat pinch. If a skinny little pinch is 10, and I'm gonna always round up big fat pinch because some of the seeds are so super tiny that I don't have time to go 1, 2, 3 to 100, right? So a scoop is perfect for figuring out how many seeds you have. You can count them one time, and then you'll know that gives you a pretty good rough estimate. So if you have like little things like this, that does work pretty well for counting your seeds. This is one of my favorite stamps for seed packets because you can draw in whatever flower it is that you are growing. So that's super cute. I already showed you the bee. And 4th of July is coming up, so this would be cute. I was thinking bachelor buttons because I think the inside part of the bachelor button flower looks kind of like a star. You could also use this for balloon flower. This would look really cool for balloon flower. Anything that has like 5 petals and points, you could do that, and you could actually use this as a template and then draw it in as the flower. So that's a cute idea too. Or if you were, let's say, doing a packet of seeds that had red, white, and blue flowers, like I have, let's say I could do like white baby's breath, and I could do blue bachelor buttons, and I could do, you know, scarlet, red, the Empress India, I think it's called Empress of India nasturtium. So I could do 3 very different kinds of flowers that are one's red, one's white, one's blue in one packet, and that would not be for selling because, you know, they get a little bit weird about how you label mixed packages, but that would be really cute for a gift or some kind of thing like that. This is one of my other favorite stamps. It is a moth, and I don't know that people would appreciate a moth because they'd be like, that reminds me of like the invasive cabbage moths, but I really like it and I appreciate it. So I might use this more for, you know, like for like gift cards and stuff like that, like for making happy birthday, here's a pretty moth, whatever. I think moths are just as beautiful as butterflies. They just are like not appreciated the same, often because they eat up your plants, but so do butterflies. For instance, like if you have milkweed, well, milkweed, we plant them for the monarchs. Their little larvae are going to eat up the milkweed. It just happens to benefit us that milkweed is like toxic to us, and we don't care that they're eating the milkweed. We care if the cabbage moths are eating our cabbage because we eat the cabbage. So plant something for them that you don't care about. We call those trap crops. For example, with nasturtium, you can plant nasturtium to the side of your garden, and that will attract the aphids away from your garden, and you won't have as many aphids in your roses and in your brassicas. They will be more attracted to the nasturtium. But definitely plant extra nasturtium because they're worth growing, not just as a trap crop. But I like moths. I'm going to keep this stamp, but I'm not going to use it on my seed packets because of the negative connotation that people have given this poor little thing. Look, 1998. That was the year after I graduated high school. So I have these here because I like to collect tree seeds. So, and you know, these have been through a lot. What I like to do too is I like to wash the stamps before I use them. This has been used a lot before I used them. I actually washed it and then I used it with gold and green. It came out really, really pretty looking. So I used it for some seeds I saved for myself for personal use. But I love these. These could also be for making Christmas cards. This one here, I'm sure is supposed to be a squash, but I couldn't find a stamp that looked good for watermelon. So I actually used this one as a watermelon stamp. I stamped it with black, and then after it dried, I colored it in with green. And once I wrote the word watermelon on top of it, it made it look like a watermelon. It could also be used for, I don't know, maybe a butternut squash, maybe a zucchini. I don't know. Comment below what you think this stamp could be used for. So I think it could be used for a variety of things, depending on maybe how you position it. Maybe if it was like off to the side, that looks more like a watermelon. I don't know. Anyway, I used it for watermelon, even though it's clearly a squash, not a melon, but I don't care. This one here I'm not using for my seed packages, but this is the Wright Brothers, and I just think it's super cool. So a friend of mine, Reba the gardening artist, came with me that day, and she looked at this first, and she decided she wasn't going to get it. And I was like, well, thank you, lady. I'll go ahead and grab that one. So I love the Wright Brothers, and as a science teacher, I figured I will find some kind of use for this one. But if I thought about a plant that would make sense to use with the Wright Brothers, I don't think I can think of something right now. So maybe something that flies. Something that can fly. Maybe maybe some kind of tree seed that has like those little twisties and it can like spin. I don't know. Or maybe for like a dandelion, because dandelion seeds can fly. I don't know. That's kind of quirky. Kind of quirky. I have a lot more stamps, not enough time to go through all of them, but it's also kind of fun. It could be a coloring project, stamp them and then color them in. It's kind of like those adult coloring books, except that they're basically free. These, I think I think all of my stamps that I have are 50. I basically paid 50 cents per stamp. And then for my stamp pads, you have to be careful with them because sometimes they're old. But I bought some that were like 50 cents. I think these were not really $2. I think they were 50 cents or $1. But these have worked out really nice for me. I did buy some where when I stamped on it is like chunks of the stamp pad came off with it. So when you're buying them discounted like that, you have to just have to realize that some of them are going to be junk and old and stuff like that. Like I said, some of these stamps are from like 1990s. So these worked out really well. And then I just make my my little packets. Now this one here, I didn't do a stamp, but I put down the name of the seed, like the different names. They're called Caviar Lentils or Beluga Lentils. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't tried eating them yet, but I'm really excited about the Beluga Lentils because they're really tiny, and I figured they could really probably do a good replacement for beef. And I'm thinking of like stretching out meat because it's getting so expensive with the Beluga or Caviar Lentils. I just feel like that tiny little size, that I think the consistency would blend in pretty well to kind of stretch that. So I don't have the rate on here because I have to do a germination test. Now I wanted to show you too that I bought a stamper that you can go onto Amazon and you can buy a stamper that you can have it make whatever you want to make. So you could say like, these books belong to so-and-so, or like it could be your address and you could stamp your address onto an envelope. Well, I decided I wanted to be able to just stamp all the information and circle it. So on this one here, if I stamp that onto the back of a packet, I can circle full, partial, or shade. I can circle yes, some, or no cold hardiness, annual, biennial, or perennial, the plant depth and spacing, and you could do inches or centimeters. You could do any information you wanted to do. One thing I would caution is you want the text to be large enough that you can actually underline, circle, or highlight that information. I also bought a stamper, just a regular stamper that has for dates, because you should put down the date harvested or the date that it's best used by. So this could work for either way. So you could put BB and then stamp the date, or you could say harvested and then stamp the date. And then people will just count out 9 months to a year after that. And that's not an expiration date. That's just a best by date. Like, you're pretty surely going to have a very similar germination rate as what is listed if you plant them by that date. And every year the germination rate might go down a little bit. Sometimes it doesn't go down at all. And sometimes it can go down really significantly depending on the type of plant it is and how those seeds were stored. The thing I like to do is I like to have these clips. So after I'm done making a bunch of packets, I will clip together, like on the side that doesn't have the seeds, I will clip together anywhere between, depends on how big the seeds are, 5 if they're like beans, 5 to 10 seed packets I can clip together with one of these, and then these can get hung up very easily. Another thing you can do is after you've made the seed packets, you can put paper tape like this, like a loop, close it and hole punch it, and now it has a little hook and you can hang it up. So I'm always trying to figure out ways to not have seed packets slipping and sliding everywhere. And if I want to grab a seed packet to put into a gift bag or whatever, then it just makes it really easy and convenient because you don't have seed packets slipping behind and falling down into some bin of stuff. So it shows you here, like these are big seeds. So I have only 5 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 packets here. And these are Perpetual, Spinach, Swiss Chard. So I've got the common name and the scientific name. So Perpetual Spinach is a Swiss Chard. It's not spinach. and it doesn't bolt as crazy as like regular spinach would. It's called Perpetual because literally you can, the whole cut and come again thing works really, really well with Perpetual spinach. So you can take out the outer leaves and it just keeps growing back like all summer. That's my little ladybug stamp I told you guys about. That's actually probably one of my favorite ones. I think it looks really cute on any kind of packet. So maybe I'll use that as my like thumbnail. Right? Super cute. I love how it looks. So that's probably my favorite. And the whole idea is stamping, 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 and then I color them in. And it's like an adult coloring book for me. And like I said, I've been putting together seed packets for the food bank. I think it was a couple days ago, I put in, it was 300 seed packets for both of my local food banks. So it was 600 seed packets. And I have donated at least 1,000 seed packets to my library. So I already have another 400 seed packets ready for the food bank. I want to get more of that together. I think, what did I donate last time? It was fenugreek, orca beans, some kind of, I'd like to do like a lot of lettuce. I think I did the red leaf lettuce, and I had like 6 different varieties that I donated. And then because I wanted to have people to have, you know, lots of variety and choices. Oh, and a flower, was it calendula was this time or next time? So I'd like to have at least one kind of flower for each donation cycle. And then if I don't want to include anything toxic because they might think it's edible. So I'm not going to do anything toxic for the food bank. But when I go to the library, they don't have a lot of space in their little container. So what I'd like to do is I like to have something in every letter of the alphabet. So for A, I'm going to have amaranth. B, I'm going to have basil. C, calendula. D, dill. Dill was a big one I did. Lots of dill. I don't know if I had anything for E. For F, I had flax. I think it was the blue perennial flax. And then G, I had, trying to remember, I think I had a couple different things for G. I definitely hit for C. I also had corn. I did a couple different, I did like a hybrid corn and an heirloom corn. I didn't have good King Henry this time. But I just try to have a lot of everything from amaranth to zinnias and zucchini. So, and then I had wheat, because I figured a lot of people will probably have fun growing wheat. It's not enough to grow, like I said, to make a loaf of bread, but it's definitely enough to get a bouquet and do all kinds of like wild crafting with the stems of the wheat and so forth. And you could try to make something, especially if you're not just using wheat, if you're using other things, other grains, you could do like a multi-grain kind of bread if you're not just using the wheat. So, and also I was using the hard red winter wheat, and it said it needed to be vernalized, which is a cold treatment. And so I did an experiment where my students actually planted them without doing cold treatment, and they grew just right. So you can do that, and I'm wondering if maybe they went through vernalization before I got them, because I didn't do the vernalization for all of the wheat, and the ones that did and didn't have that process, they both sprouted. So you can plant winter wheat without cold stratifying them. And then you can use them in flower arrangements and dry flower arrangements, the regular kind, and even like Norwegian, the braiding that they do, the really beautiful braiding and artwork that they do with that. The Christmas ornaments you can make from them, especially if they're really long stemmed. So not all of your plants have to be for food. Some of them could actually be for your arts and craft materials. Like even making wreaths and stuff like that. That can be very pricey if you're going to like Marshalls and so forth. But if you're wild crafting, that's a great way to use your stuff. So hopefully I've given you a few ideas. And like I said, the secondhand craft store, I will put a link in the description so you can check them out. But I get most of my stamps from them for 50 cents per stamp usually, unless they're marked otherwise. And I did get ripped off online one time. I went onto Etsy and I bought what I thought was a stamp. So it was a stamp, and it said like where the seeds are from, what's the seed variety, where the seeds are from, and when should you plant them by, and what are some tips. And so it clearly said it was the stamp. And what I got was seed packets. I received empty seed packets that would just have the stamp. They had stamped it, right? So one idea you could do as a gift is you could make the packets, like write down like this is where you're going to have for the date, right? And then here's a picture of a ladybug, and here's a place that you're going to write the plant name, but then leave it blank. And then the person you're gifting it to, they can fill that information out. So I couldn't believe it because I spent like $13 and I thought I was getting a stamp. I thought it was a good deal, but I literally got like eight packets that had been stamped with it, which means I paid over $1 per packet for it to be stamped. And I would have never, ever in my life paid like that, because I literally make 100 seed packets in a sitting. So like, who has time for that? No, I was going to use a stamper. So I was really disappointed. I didn't ask for my money back, but I did tell her that I felt like it was false advertisement because it repeatedly said stamp, not stamped envelopes. So watch out if you're buying stuff online, that you read the descriptions very carefully, and maybe even send them a message and say, is this for the stamper or is this for envelopes? So, but I do recommend, if you liked this idea, you can, this one here, you can go online and just go to where they say, you know, like, you can Google it, or just go into like Amazon or Etsy. Amazon's probably better. And just say, put in personalized stamper, and you'll find really good deals. It wasn't very expensive to get this made for me. And it could say, you know, your name on it. It could say from, you know, so-and-so's garden for this year, and then you write the year in. That sounded like urine. You write in the year. And then I like this one because most seed packets say if it should be full sun, partial sun, if it's cold hardy, and how long it lives, and how deep to plant it. So, or maybe what it's good for. Is it pollinator friendly or something? Anyway, hopefully you got something out of this, and this is how I do my seed packets. And if that changes in time, I will update you, but I hope you enjoyed this. All right, everybody, be good, be sweet, grow garden if you want to eat, and I will see you next time. Bye. God bless.